Hey everybody, it's Baer from Convince and Convert, joined today with a very special video interview by my friend David Newman from Do It Marketing, coming to us live. Although when you see this, it won't be live, it'll be recorded. But right now, he is coming to me live from outside Philadelphia, PA. Mr. Newman, how are you?
Baer, I am outstanding, and even more so talking to you.
Thank you, sir. First, what are in the mysterious black filing cabinets behind you? That appears to be government issue, like something amazing is back there.
Have you seen the movie Men in Black?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I would ordinarily open any of these filing cabinets back here, except those strange little green guys with the long tongues and the googly eyes. They would pop out and they'd go, "Hey, David, how you doing? What's up, buddy? Hey!" And that would make a very awkward interview, and then I'd have the media, like in my driveway.
We'd have to
out
do the
here.
light to make us forget, the light pen. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And doing that to thousands and thousands of people who are watching this, that just gets awkward.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah,
really.
too much.
It's too much.
Too much.
I see your book over your shoulder, and rightfully so. You are the author of a fantastic book that continues to sell day after day after day after day on the Amazons. It is called Do It Marketing: 77 Instant Action Ideas to Boost Sales, Maximize Profits, and Crush Your Competition. The book has been out almost a year. In fact, you're having a book anniversary, so to speak. It is a book birthday this week. This week, I think, right? Is the book birthday?
Yes, June 5th.
This is when I should have a candle put into your book. I have the boat over there. I should, like have a little happy birthday. Maybe we'll add that in post-production.
Or just light the book on fire. I mean, either way.
Or coat it in frosting. Either way. So I was very delighted to work with you when you put the book together. I'm so happy that it continues to sell so strongly, and it absolutely should, because it's a barn burner. When we talk about 77 sort of instant action ideas, what do you mean by instant action ideas?
Well, so there's a lot of books out there that talk marketing theory. They talk about the why, they talk about the how, but they don't talk about the, okay, now what? And so I wanted, so what I did, and this is similar to both of your fabulous books, by the way, I wrote the book that I myself wanted to read. So I was like, man, oh man, why isn't there a book that just gets, it's the handbook, it's the manual for I get up in the morning and what do I do? What do I do online? What do I do offline? What do I do with speaking and publishing and social media and the internet and referrals and all these different sorts of things? So I wrote the book that I myself wanted to read, which is kind of like the action-oriented, what do I actually get up in the morning and do every day to market my business, sell, develop an audience, etc.
You talked about the offline and online. I think that's really fascinating. Do you find that people who read the book, or people that you work with on a consulting basis, have more of a struggle with the online tasks or the offline tasks?
Well, they probably have a struggle just with sales and marketing. And so one of the key things that I put into the book is, I don't care what kind of executive or entrepreneur you are, or kind of what you do, or the kind of the core of your work. Our job number one, is to be marketer-in-chief and salesperson-in-chief of our career, of our company, of our business. And I think people, it's even like a step before what you're asking about. People have a hard time embracing this concept. They say, well, I'm not a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. In fact, I don't even like marketing. I don't like selling. And again, I quote you, my friend, with the fabulous utility concept. It's not about being hypey or pushy or jerky. It's about being helpful. It's about being radically helpful and radically generous. If you can convert the marketing and the sales and the business development activities, redefine those in your mind, say, well, how can I be radically helpful and radically generous? All of a sudden, the marketing and the selling yuckiness disappears.
Yeah, well said. I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs and sort of advise them and help them get good at this, both through the book and through your consulting program. I've always felt, and God bless that you're doing this, because I've always felt that entrepreneurs are sometimes a difficult client, a difficult audience, because they they feel like they kind of have it figured out, or they feel like, well, yeah, I could do marketing, I just chose not to. Or you sort of get the, well, I'm the idea guy. Somebody else should be in charge of this execution, because the reality is, as per the book, there's at least 77 tactical things that you could or should do in terms of sales or marketing. And a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, I feel like use the title entrepreneur as an excuse to not be good at tactics, and that's got to be interesting for you. And sometimes you probably put down the phone and say, I would like to smack this person in the head.
Yes, 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 and amen. And I think you and I should just go on the road. We'll like do a show together and say, here's what's wrong with entrepreneurs, and then I'll share. Well, what's wrong.
I know, because I is one, just like you, right? I mean, exactly. I walk a mile.
I think so. Here's an idea. This is so. I'm not even sure if there's a question there, other than is this accurate? And the answer is yes. Wouldn't it be cool if you and I put our heads together and figured out, from a marketing and a sales and a social media perspective, what big companies can learn from the small companies and the entrepreneurs, and what can the entrepreneurs learn from what the big companies are doing?
Because there's a book in that idea right there.
Oh my gosh,
there's
absolutely.
A book in that idea. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. There
so
really
we
is.
will. I'll your girl will call my guy, my guy will call your girl, whatever. But yes,
that's
oh my
got
God.
a lot of potential. I think you could sell a bunch of books on that.
Yeah.
So what do you? Let me make you a question. Let me craft you a question. So when entrepreneurs say to you, and I know they do, David, this sounds great, but I don't have time for that. I hear that a lot from executives on my side. I don't work with too many entrepreneurs, but a lot of executives, and they say, well, I don't have time to be doing all that Twitter. I don't have time to be on the twatter. I got a girl to do that, whatever. Yeah. So what do you say to them?
Well, so I think I've talked to, in my speaking, I talked to some sort of medium-sized companies and some nonprofits and so on and so forth. So I remember I was at a nonprofit conference up in Connecticut, and all these nonprofit executives just totally befuddled by anything with marketing, selling, social media, fundraising, development, cause marketing, all this stuff. I said, listen, you guys run organizations. You walk into an office, you've got people. You could delegate, you could outsource, you could bake this into what everyone's doing. Then I show them my dog's Twitter account. My dog has a Twitter account. Her name is Woofy. She's a black Labrador retriever. Her Twitter account is @Where'sWoofy. Her website's also www.where'swoofy.com. I say, my dog has more Twitter followers than your organization. And my dog doesn't even have opposable thumbs. So if you go to Woofy's little Twitter account, it says, dog approved, human managed tweets, because obviously I'm doing it for her.
Yes.
But the point is, I mean, as a solopreneur, I know you're running an empire, so you're not solo anymore.
Hardly.
But as an entrepreneur, I'm doing all of this stuff, and I'm running my business, and I'm doing service delivery, and I'm traveling, and I'm working with clients. So I love these guys that have like 10, 20, 30 full-time employees who go, we just don't have time for social media.
I think the answer is, and it's hard to say this, the answer is you got to work harder than you think you do.
Well, and this is the work. That's what I told the nonprofit guys, and that's what I tell everybody. People always say, hey, David, this sounds like a lot of work. And I say, it is a lot of work, but you know what? So is fundraising. So is marketing. So is sales. And you could spam the world. You could send out your 10 million emails. You could paper the wall with your direct mail and your postcards and your campaign letters. But every single day, those kinds of old school tactics are getting less and less and less effective. And the stuff that you teach and the stuff that I teach with some of the online components is getting more and more and more important. So if you can say, oh, well, the old stuff was easy. I would just push a button and we'd mail out 100,000 postcards. Yeah, it's easy, but how's it working for you, right? You got to ask the Dr. Phil question. Yeah. And I love the Dr. Phil question because as soon as you turn around and say, well, what kind of results are you getting from that these days? They go, oh, it's not like 5 years ago. It's like, yeah, that's right. It's not like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and
no question.
Imagine 5 years from now if you don't get on the bandwagon and don't start getting your house in order now.
Yeah, I mean, nobody ever promised that social media was going to be easy. They just promised that it was going to be awesome. Right? It's not the same thing, right? And you know, you've probably heard the saying. I don't remember who told me this initially, but you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is today.
Absolutely.
So if you know, if what you were doing 5 years ago isn't working, well, why would you wait another 5 years to do something about that?
Ancient Chinese wisdom is correct, says Confucius.
What is your advice, both in the book and in person? Somebody comes to you, David, I really need to get going on all this. What do you tell them is the first step? What's the very first thing you should do?
I think the very first thing that they should do...
After they read the book.
Yes, of course. Well, first they should read your book. Second, they should read my book. And then they'd be like, "Oh, Newman, I don't need you anymore. Forget it."
No, because your book is the tactical. Your book is the tactical solutions to the theory that I put out there.
Right.
All those marketing guys who just talk theory that you were demeaning at the beginning of this conversation. That's me. I'm that guy. I appreciate that. Thanks.
No. That's far from the truth, by the way. You've got some fabulous case studies and some very, very good models in there that people can pick up and implement immediately. You know, so my philosophy in the book and in real life is, number one, focus on the who, because you cannot boil the ocean. You can't market and sell to the world. So figure out who's that sub niche, who's that slice of the world, who, whatever your product, whatever your service, whatever your program is, who needs it more greatly, who suffers from it more deeply, and who's going to value it more highly. Yeah. Because that's the slice of the world, that's the slice of the universe that you can own and dominate and penetrate and identify and start to serve. Second question is, really figure out, don't just say, well, here's the solutions, here's what we do, here's our product, here's why it's great, here's our service, here's why it's great. Figure out, for that population, for that specific group, what are the pains, problems, heartaches, headaches, challenges, and gaps that your product and your service and your program are brilliant at solving? Because one of the things I believe, just like the Confucius quote, is, you know, and I love the whole 20 years ago, plant the tree. Second piece of Chinese wisdom, if you're going to sell fire extinguishers, first show the fire. So we have to get in term, you know, no one buys products and no one buys services. Everyone wants to solve a problem. And they're not going to pay money because, oh, it's a great product, it looks really good. Or, oh, it's a great service, it looks really good. People buy things to solve problems. They can be emotional problems, intellectual problems, financial problems, problems with my kids, problems with my car, problems with my hair. I no longer have a lot of hair problems. But anyway, it's pretty simple. You kind of wake up, a little bit of mousse, a little bit of, you know, whatever. But seriously, well, very little, just to kind of keep the crazy wings down. So hairstyling tips from David Newman. That's my third book coming up.
That's coming up. 77 instant action ways.
It's like, lose all your hair, no more hair problems. But seriously, start to speak in the vocabulary of problem solving, and then, you know, resolve those problems. And solve bigger problems, you get bigger checks. And that's true whether it's a product or a service or any sort of business to business, business to consumer, etc. So if they were starting from square one, the two first things I would do is I identify your who, identify the who, critically important, and then identify those urgent, pervasive, expensive problems, because that's going to open the floodgates to the marketing conversation and the sales conversation. And then more importantly, you'll never be at a loss for words for what to say or how to say it, because because now we're in a conversation. Now we're just talking. Now it's like, you know, I need to enter the conversation that's already going on in your mind, so that we are, you know, we resonate. And then the only two purposes of marketing, in my opinion, is to convey two and only two ideas. Idea number one, you know, I know what you're going through. Idea number two, I can fix it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, two things that you mentioned there I really resonate with me. I was giving a presentation yesterday in Utah, and I was talking about that same principle of understanding what the real need is, right? And the real need is not usually your product. Your product is a means to an end, right? And what I said was that nobody in the history of the world has ever needed socks, but everybody in the history of the world has needed their feet to be warmer. And that's the kind of thing I think that you're talking about. You have to understand what the big picture really is. And there's a great, I know you're familiar, there's a great sort of Zig Ziglar premise, right? Which is that the most effective kind of sales and marketing thing ever, right, is the similar situation sale, right? That if you can say to somebody, I know what you're going through and I have solved this problem for people in the same situation in the past, then they're like, well, then you must be the guy. You must be the one that we should hire.
Right.
And people don't, part of the challenge, I think, and I'm sure you see this, is that a lot of business people, especially entrepreneurs, want to try and attack a too big of a section of the market. Right?
Oh, my
they
gosh.
want to try and sell some stuff to everybody, as opposed to why don't you just be the best solution for this group of people? And the same the same thing is frankly true with content, right? I tell people all the time, look, if you want to have an effective blog, if you have a blog that gets traffic, be somebody's favorite blog in the world. Right? Figure out who the people are in the world who will say that is the best blog of the 500 million blogs out there. That's the best one. Who are the people that would say that? And write for those people. And don't write for anybody. You'll get some other people, but only write for those people. And that's really, really hard to do because what you have to, the intellectual exercise you have to go through to do that requires you to pull in your own dreams. Right? To say, here's what I want to be, but to get there, I actually have to start here. And that is really, really hard to do, especially for entrepreneurs.
Right. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely and amen. So I'm just going to take this part of our interview. I'm going to replay about that last 2.5 minutes that you just said to every single one of my clients and audiences and say, hey, don't listen to me. Listen to Jay Baer because he's smart.
This could be a video this is the video that shows up on both of our websites, right?
That's right.
It's a dual purpose.
Exactly.
It's a dual purpose. I want to ask a little bit about your own usage of these things. You're very active, very adroit in social and digital. In fact, we first met through the National Speakers Association a few years ago when you lassoed me into a social media workshop wearing costumes. And it's all been downhill since.
Yes.
In addition to your dog's success in Twitter, you are active across a number of social networks. I'd like to know sort of what do you feel has been the most effective social platforms for you in your career and why? Wow, what a great question. Well, so, I think, and so I'm also a firm believer when you say kind of rein it in and, be the favorite blog for this kind of thing. I'm not a big believer in dominate every social media platform. Yeah. So I'm active on a very small handful. I'm active on Facebook, I'm active on Twitter, and then also on LinkedIn. Now I have a presence on all the rest of them. Yeah. So yes, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Pinterest, and Pinterest can kind of suck you in, by the way. If you want to kill like 10 hours and not even know what the hell happened, Pinterest. Yeah. Awesome. Just woo! All of a sudden, you're a cupcake expert. You didn't even know it. Yeah, like, exactly. Bam! You can do that with bacon? Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. Look, there's pineapple and there's little shrimps and, delicious. Incredible. So, LinkedIn, I think, is great for direct prospecting. I think LinkedIn as a prospecting platform, when you're doing kind of it's social, but it's really about targeted prospecting. So I love LinkedIn for that. Facebook, I believe, is a humanizer. So anytime I try and do something straight business, like promote a webinar, even if it's free, promote my blog, promote the webinar, Facebook couldn't care less. It's just like, yeah, we're not doing that. If I say, hey guys, I'm going to my in-laws in Reading, Pennsylvania, and I'm doing a yard sale, do you have any tips? I'll get like 30 likes and 57 comments, and everyone wants to help David with the yard sale. No one cares about David's webinar or David's coaching program or any of it. And then so finally, Twitter, I find, is a huge driver of traffic. Not good for sales. In fact, there's no social media channel that's good for sales. And I write about that, and you write about that. People go, the most idiotic thing, Jay, that I ever hear is instantly grow sales with social media. It's like, no. Yeah. We're not going to instantly grow any sales with social media. So Twitter's a great source of traffic for me. So you look at your web stats, kind of where's your traffic coming from? Some is organic, some comes from Google, some is from Twitter.
So like 15–20% of my traffic on my website, on my blog, comes from Twitter. That's because I am just a Twitter machine, and I use great tools like Buffer and Tweet Adder and some of these tools to automate. And my belief in social media, by the way, is automate and humanize. So this is a very long-winded answer to a pretty great question. It's really two answers. Number one, don't be everywhere. It doesn't make sense to invest and spread yourself so thin that you're everywhere. Pick your 2 or 3 social media platforms, and then figure out which ones are best for which application. So again, in my world, and a lot of people would use LinkedIn for targeted prospecting and targeted outreach. A lot of folks would use Facebook just to kind of humanize yourself. And another great quote about Facebook, people say, well, I want to sell. I want to move my products, move my services, so I want to use Facebook to sell. And there's some way you can advertise and do all kinds of great things on Facebook. But just as far as your personal Facebook profile, the soundbite I endorse is, don't worry about being a good salesperson. Just worry about being a good person. And if you're a good person, show me your kids, show me your dog, show me your favorite brownie recipe, show me you at the yard sale. Ask questions, invite engagement, encourage a conversation. And like, oh, I like that David Newman. He doesn't really sell much on Facebook, but he always has these cool posts and funny quotes and interesting questions and so forth. And then, if you're in a certain niche, if you're going after a certain demographic, yes, of course, Pinterest is great, Instagram is great, Tumblr is great, Snapchat, Vine, all that stuff is great. But, don't let the tail wag the dog is the other thing. Figure out strategically, why are you there? What are you hoping to accomplish? Sales is never a good answer, by the way. And then just kind of figure out so as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, even as a corporate entity, figure out what's the best fit. What's the best fit? Your goals and that platform and that audience. Because if your audience isn't there, you shouldn't be there if you're hoping to develop business. And I see this a lot where people are saying, well, we're everywhere and none of it's working. Well, do less marketing, do less social media, and you'll get better results if you focus it to where your folks are and you use it more strategically and more programmatically.
No kidding. Last question from my friend David Newman, author of the fantastic book Do It Marketing, which is celebrating its book anniversary this week. So you've been in business for a while. I've been doing this for a while. Looking back, what do you wish you knew then that you do know now? Sort of what would you tell young David Newman about business and marketing?
Wow, so that's a great question, and I just recently figured this out. Last 2 or 3 years, I'll be totally upfront about that. And part of it is us doing this interview. So what I would tell young David Newman is, stop being a lone wolf. And that the more that you feature and leverage other people, collaborate, shine the spotlight on other people. Because you know what? Experts and expert companies shine the spotlight on other experts and on other expert companies. And I knew this kind of in the back of my brain because I'm a huge Tom Peters fan. And back in, I don't know, 1997 or 1998, he had thought leaders and so forth. One of the first things he implemented is a little feature on his blog called Tom's Cool Friends. And I was like, oh my God, what a great idea, Tom's Cool Friends, right? So he would there specifically and intentionally shine the spotlight on other experts, shine the spotlight on other thought leaders. And so this is why, for example, the awesome Baer has a guest chapter in the Do It Marketing book. And 13 other of my really smart friends have a guest chapter. Because I said, you know what? I don't even want this to be my book. I want this to be our book. And I have a blog post out there called Why Your Business Needs to Flop. And FLOP is an acronym for Feature and Leverage Other People. Feature and leverage other people. So my business flops, your business flops.
I love it.
Folks watching, your business needs to flop. Whether it's a company of 1 or a company of 10,000, figure out how can you flop, how can you feature and leverage other people, because that's going to raise your profile and raise your expertise and raise your level of trust and raise your level of utility.
Thank you, sir. You just wrote the headline for the blog post accompanying this video, How to Make Your Business a Flop. We buried the lead a little bit, but that will be the headline you just watch. Thanks so much for being here. Fantastic to see you. See you face-to-face in a couple of weeks. Congratulations on the book, Mr. David Newman. We'll link it up here in the show notes. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jay. Talk to you soon.
See you, my friend.